What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is time, the long-awaited return of one of the most popular segments we have ever had here at Chat Sports. It is time to reignite our top 10 starting lineups in the NBA. We're heading into the All-Star break. There are a lot of moves at the deadline, so I'm going to bring you guys some top 10 lineups. I'm so excited for this, but here's my criteria, first things first, because we had a lot of complaints with people saying, oh, we have no idea what you're basing this off of, blah, blah, blah. Here. This is what I'm basing our top 10 lineups off of. First things first, the net rating of the starting five. That's one of the first things I look at. Not the actual team's net rating, the net rating of the individual starting five. What the team's overall record is, their offensive and defensive ratings, and then my own eyeballs. If my eyeballs say that one starting lineup is better than the other, and I have numbers to back it up, I'm going to put them ahead of them. And you'll have a couple different examples of that here as we go. Of course, as always, keep it nice in the comments. Let's make this a fun video. Let me know in the comment section below what your guys' top 10 starting lineups is and if I had any egregious leave-outs. And yes, I was this close to putting the Kings in. I was this close. So close. Let's go to number 10. Let's start with the Houston Rockets. Yes, they're at number 10. They were way higher on my last couple lists, mostly because, look, they just haven't performed that well this year, and their starting lineup has gone through so many changes. But the reason I slot them in at number 10 is because somehow the addition of Kenneth Faried has smoothed everything out. Now with James Harden with the 30-point streak that he's on, PJ Tucker slot in the starting lineup. Clint Capella's been dealing with injuries, but when that starting five is played together, their net rating is actually ranked in the top 15 in the NBA. Really, any lineup that has James Harden and Chris Paul in it is going to end up ranking pretty high. But overall, this Houston Rockets team has done a great job with all the injuries they've had this year, with all the drama around the team, of keeping the ship afloat. They're 32-23. They were barely in the playoff hunt after 30 games. But now we look back, James Harden has stabilized things. Chris Paul coming back has helped them as well. So I think this Houston Rockets team, as we progress through the rest of the season, you're going to see that starting five continue to rack up minutes and continue to bring wins home for Houston. So overall, I think putting the Rockets lineup at number 10 is a good spot for them. They've definitely underperformed this year, but overall, with the amount of talent they have, plus their recent additions, I think the Houston Rockets are going to be just fine. Before we move into the rest of the top 10, who is the worst starting five in the NBA? That's an interesting question. Let me know in the comment section below who you guys think is the worst starting five in the NBA. It's finally not the Sacramento Kings, but it might be the Hawks. The Cavs are obviously up there as well. The Knicks are in there certainly as well. So let me know who you guys think has the worst starting five in the NBA. Let's go to number 9, the Utah Jazz. So again, this is the first example of where I have a team with a worse record ahead of a team with a better record. So I have the Jazz ahead of the Rockets, even though they're behind them in the standings. The reason I have the Jazz at number 5 is because the net rating of their starting lineup is absurdly high. This combination of Rubio, Mitchell, Ingles, Gobert, and Jay Crowder ranks in the top 10 in net ratings among qualified candidates. This is one of the best starting fives in basketball. The problem is that they just don't have enough scoring all around on this team. Their points per possessions on this team is +5, which is still very good. It's just that the bench doesn't really score, which explains why they're 20th in total points per game. I think this Utah Jazz team has a lot of talent. I think that starting five is fantastic. But what ended up winning them games in the playoffs and how they beat Oklahoma City was the efficiency of their bench and their ability to shoot threes. As of right now, the team still hasn't shown that, which is why they're only 6th right now in the West. Maybe they'll get super hot after the All-Star break like they did last year. But as of right now, again, I think 9 is a fine spot for the Utah Jazz. Let's go to number 8. I got so much hell for putting the Portland Trail Blazers on the top 10 starting lineup list last year, even though they ended up 3rd in the Western Conference. And again, here we stand. The Portland Trail Blazers are 4th in the West, and their starting lineup is top 10 in net rating. Why do you guys not think the starting lineup is good? There is value in consistency in the NBA, and no one has had a more consistent starting lineup than the Blazers have had over the past couple of years. That combination of Damian Lillard, McCollum, and Al-Farouq Aminu, Yusuf Nurkic has been swapped in and out, as has Evan Turner. But as long as those 3 guys are on the court for Portland, they have had a really good starting lineup. And I think overall, for all the hate that you guys want to throw at Portland, they're 4th in the West. They have a top 10 record in the NBA. They ended 3rd in the entire conference last year. This starting lineup gets it done. And the more hate you throw at them, the more consistent they end up being. We've been talking for years about them trying to find a third star, but even without that third great player, this Trailblazers team has still been able to keep things together, and the eye test confirms it as well. You just watch this Portland team, and you're going to see a lot of quality. Let's go to number 7. It's the Toronto Raptors. I actually had them higher before the Marc Gasol trade. I moved them down because I'm not 100% sure how it's going to end up working out. And again, with the talent, they certainly have the talent. Since they have brought people in, the starting lineup with Kawhi, Lowry, Danny Green, Siakam, and Gasol hasn't been amazing. It's been okay. I mean, they've only played about 15 total NBA minutes together, but this is going to end up being the Raptors starting 5 in the playoffs, and putting them at number 7 is a fine place for them. I think it gives them a lot of growing room in terms of jumping into the top 5, but it's also conservative enough because we haven't seen the Raptors starters with Marc Gasol quite yet, and obviously when you move as many pieces as they did to bring in Gasol, there's always going to be a little bit of an adjustment period. But I think this Raptors starting lineup with Gasol does have room to improve. They're 4th in the entire NBA in team net rating, and that should just show you the amount of quality that this team has shown this year. I'd like to see them take it up to another level once the playoffs come around, but number 7 right now for the Toronto Raptors, it's a pretty good spot in terms of their starting 5. If you guys want to make some money on the NBA this year, there's only one place to do it, and that's at BetDSI, the sportsbook partner here at Chat Sports. Head to chatsports.com/bet. Use that promo code NBA120 for an 120% deposit bonus. If you think I'm crazy for leaving the Raptors out of the top 5, it's easy. Just go put some money down them on the BetDSI to make it to the NBA Finals. The Eastern Conference rankings have been updated with the trade deadline, as have the West. So it's an easy time to put down some prop bets and make some money on the NBA today. Let's go to number 6. It's the Denver Nuggets. I wanted to put them higher. I did. They're so good. They are an absolute problem. But remember, we are ranking the top 10 starting lineups in the NBA. Here's the problem with the Nuggets starting lineup. They haven't really played that much together because all of them have been hurt. Will Barton just came back. Paul Millsap just came back. Gary Harris still hasn't returned from an injury. Jamal Murray has been inconsistent this year. But when you put together their offensive rating and their defensive rating, along with the eye test when these guys have actually played together, not to mention with how many players on this team have been injured, their way to keep everything together, this starting 5 has actually been one of the best units in the NBA when they've all played together. It didn't happen for very long, but when they were together, they were top 4 in the NBA in net rating, and I think you're going to see that continue into the playoffs. There's a reason that this Nuggets team has been so good this year. This is not a fluke of a team. This is a very well coached, very fundamentally sound team that is going to make problems in the playoffs. Now, the one reason I have them at 6 over some of the teams ahead of them, despite the fact they're second in the NBA, or second in the West, I should say, in record, they're still a little young, and they don't have a lot of playoff experience. And again, like I said before, health. So you combine all those things together, it's going to drop them a couple spots, but the more consistency and health they get, they could easily jump back into the top 5 once a couple things work out in their favor. I want to know from you guys, though, which team in the West has the best chance of beating the Warriors? Is it the Thunder with MVP candidate Paul George? Is it the Blazers with Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum? Or is it the Denver Nuggets, who have caused a lot of problems this year in the Western Conference, though haven't really got on the Warriors' radar quite yet? I think it's the Thunder, just based off of the amount of stars that they have and with how great of a year Paul George is having. He could easily win a series for the Warriors if need be. Let's go into the top 5, and yes, at number 5, I have the Boston Celtics. The premise around this team's demise is wildly overstated. This team is fine. Sure, they might not be having fun and are incredibly streaky, but they're 3rd in the NBA in net rating. And ladies and gentlemen, since Jaylen Brown and Gordon Hayward have been taken out of the starting lineup, and the Marcuses have been inserted, and Marcus Smart and Marcus Morris, this starting lineup scores more than their opponents at a rate of plus 12 points per 100. Plus 12, one of the top numbers in the NBA and one of the biggest turnarounds for any starting lineup in basketball. Yes, in the entire sport, the Celtics have been putting up one of the best starting lineups. In fact, it has been so good that since the 20-game mark of the NBA season, this starting lineup has the second highest net rating in basketball. Basketball. The story around the Celtics' demise is wildly overstated. They've dealt with a lot of injuries to their lineup. They've dealt with a lot of injuries to their bench. And I have them number 5 because I know I'm going to get roasted if I put them any higher with their record being what it is. But if you watch the Celtics and you look at the numbers, their starting lineup has been one of the best units in basketball and should continue to do so into the rest of the season. Marcus Smart, by the way, has become one of the best, how do I put this? He has become one of the best utility basketball players in the sport today, and he has been one of the biggest reasons behind the Celtics' comeback so far this season. Let's go to number 4. It is the Oklahoma City Thunder. Fun fact, their starting lineup has the highest net rating in the NBA. Fact. This starting lineup, Russell Westbrook, Terrence Ferguson, Jeremy Grant, Steven Adams, and Paul George, by net rating alone, has been the best starting lineup in basketball. And you might be wondering, then why aren't they at number 1? Well, the eye test for me has put them down a little bit lower. They've struggled on defense for various stretches throughout this season, and they've also gone through some pretty weird scoring droughts. Probably has a lot to do with the amount of streaky scores they have on that starting lineup. At their peak, this team could drop 130 points with the starting lineup putting up 100 of that. But when they're not on their game, Terrence Ferguson and Jeremy Grant can really slog things down, and obviously Russell Westbrook still can't shoot the ball well from 3. But again, at number 4, this is a perfect spot. 3rd in the West, best starting lineup in the NBA by number standpoint, but their offensive and defensive ratings bring them down a little bit along with their eye test. I think number 4 is a perfect spot for a team that is incredibly star heavy and doesn't have a lot of depth behind them. And by the way, if you're wondering, no, when you put Dennis Schroeder into that lineup, they do in fact get worse. They are better with him on the court, but they are not better if he is in that starting lineup. So kind of take that for how you will going into the playoffs, but I think number 4 is a good spot for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Let's talk about the Milwaukee Bucks. So I have them at number 3. Mostly kind of for the same reason why I put the Raptors a little bit down low, but I put them at number 3 just because I want to see what their lineup is going to look like with Mirotic and Brook Lopez on the floor together. Is it going to be Malcolm Brogdon? Where's Chris Middleton going to play? How is Eric Bledsoe going to evolve with Mirotic and a couple of the other pieces that they have slotting in and out here? So look, I was so close to putting this Bucks team at 1 or 2. But when we're talking about strict talent in the starting 5, I just can't put them above the teams that we have the top 2 because they only have one true star on this team in Giannis. They have 4 other very good NBA players who have all had very good seasons outside of Eric Bledsoe, who's had just an okay season. But they just don't have a star. And I think a lot of what their success has come from this year has been a change in coaching with Mike Budenholzer coming in and a very improved bench. So while the Bucks have been the best team in the East this year, their starting lineup does not come in at number 1 in the conference just because, again, with the amount of talent that they have on that starting lineup, it just doesn't quite put them over what our teams are in number 1 and 2. I want to know from you guys, though, who will win the Eastern Conference? Is it the Bucks? Is it the Sixers? Will it be the Raptors, the Celtics? Let me know. I want to know who you guys think is going to win the East this year. Also, while you're at it, go ahead and subscribe to us here at Chat Sports. We're trying to get to that 100,000 subscriber mark. We're at 85,000. We're trying to get there by the NFL draft. And with your help, we absolutely can get there. Go ahead and subscribe today. Hit that little red button. Also, while you're at it, throw in our video notifications as well so you guys can get an alert whenever we got a new video for you. Go to youtube.com/chatsportstv. All right, this is the one I'm going to get yelled at. This is the one I'm going to get yelled at for. I'm seeing into the future. Everyone is going to yell at me for putting the 76ers at number 2 over the Bucks. Everyone's going to yell at me. Here's the problem. I don't care because the 76ers starting lineup is better than the Bucks. Since they've gone Tobias Harris and have added him to the table, they have been fantastic. Their defense has been a little bit shaky, but as it will be when you add in another player to your starting lineup. But they have rolled over the 3 teams that they have played since they've added Tobias Harris. They have put together a lot of points. They dropped 140 points against the Lakers without overtime. Yeah, without overtime. This team can straight up knock down buckets. And with this starting 5, Simmons, Redick, Harris, Butler, and Embiid, it is the best starting lineup in the Eastern Conference. The eye test tells me as much, as do the numbers since they've added Tobias Harris. I love this starting lineup. I don't know if they're going to win the playoffs. I think it's going to hurt their depth a little bit too much. But in terms of starting lineups, whoo boy, you are not going to find much better than what the 76ers have been able to put together this year. But of course, there is one team that has a better starting lineup. For the reigning second video in a row for our starting lineups, of course, it's the Golden State Warriors. Because if you try to put together any argument that says that this isn't the best starting lineup in basketball, you're nuts. And I don't want to hear your argument. Sure, has their net rating not been amazing since Boogie has come back? No, it hasn't. I mean, they're better with him on the court, but it's not like they're roasting teams by 50. Their net rating with this starting lineup is only about +2. But here's the thing. DeMarcus Cousins is going to be fine by the time the playoffs come around. He's only playing about 20 minutes a night. So when they eventually ramp him up to about 30 a night with the rest of those dudes, I don't want to hear an argument. Have the Nuggets been really good this year? Yeah. Have the Thunder been really good this year? Absolutely. Is the 76ers starting 5 really damn good? Oh yeah. But y'all are kidding yourselves if you think that this Golden State Warriors lineup isn't going to be the #1 unit in the NBA. It is where I started. When I made this list, it was Warriors at #1. Let's figure out the next 2 through 10. So the Warriors coming in #1, and it was probably the easiest pick that I had on this list. Let's go back through the top 10 before we leave you guys today. Golden State Warriors at 1, then the 76ers, the Bucks, the Thunder, and the Celtics finishing out our top 5. And then 6 through 10, it's the Nuggets, the Raptors, the Trailblazers, the Utah Jazz, and the Houston Rockets. Again, keep it nice, people. Put your top 10 lineups in the comments section below. Let's have a good discussion. I'll be in there as well. Let's rile this baby up. I want to hear what you guys have to say as we enter the NBA All-Star break.